This is so tasty and so good that I got to share it. It will brighten your day. This British authority, Matthew Goodwin, who is in Europe. I'm not sure if this was in at the EU or if he's in Great Britain here, but he is explaining America and Trump and what's going on to Europeans. Check this out.
Well, I was looking around social media today, and it struck me that a lot of people who like to start wars are suddenly very angry with one guy who wants to stop this war. And there are people who have taken us into one disaster after another, war in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, who have spent much of today on social media attacking Trump. What we're seeing, I think, is a reset of geopolitics, a reset. We're seeing the breakdown of what you might call the international liberal world order, which saw 20, 30 years of one foreign policy disaster after another. And Trump, I was at the inauguration in America, and people around the president are basically saying, they've had enough of that constant interventionism. They've had enough of Europe, by the way, again, maybe a controversial point, but Europe not paying its way on defense. And they've looked to Germany, they've looked to France, they've looked to Italy, they've looked to the UK, and they said, what are you guys doing? Take Germany as an example. Germany under the Greens. Absolutely bonkers. Becoming more dependent upon Russia because of its ridiculous energy policy. Becoming more dependent upon China. And then turning around and criticizing Donald Trump when he says we've got to end this war.
My gosh.
I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense anymore. There are two things that need to happen. One is Ukraine obviously needs to be involved in the negotiated settlement. That's obvious. But the second key point is this now has to be a line in the sand. After this negotiated settlement, Europe is going to have to pay to defend itself. Yes. We cannot just rely on America. Because understandably, they're saying, look, we've got China. We've got our problems on the border.
Right.
We've got to revitalize our economy.
Yes.
So I think for everybody who sat there criticizing Donald Trump, I do think we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and think, actually, are we getting this right here in Europe?
Thank you.
Just soak it in for a minute. Oh, you never hear that from Europeans. You never hear it.
Nope.
That was just, it's manna from heaven. Thank you. Pat, thank you. There is a person on this planet, other than the 334 million who live in this country, and not even all of them understand it. No. But there's a person who's outside this nation who understands it. Thank you. Thank you. Tired of protecting everybody?
Tired of protecting the world.
When they're fully capable of protecting themselves.
Right.
I mean, Germany, really? Do we need troops in Germany? One of the richest nations on earth?
Yeah. And he's talking about, there's kind of this reset here. And I got to thinking about Ukraine specifically, and I wanted to ask you, do you think that the left, why do you think the left, Pat, is so anti what Trump is doing on Ukraine? He's trying to find peace. He's trying to keep us out of war. Stop the war. Stop this nonsense. And I'm just trying to figure out, why do you think the left?
I think what he said last week is really true. There's nothing he could do. For one thing, that's part of it. There's nothing he could do. They automatically hate everything he does. It doesn't matter. He could cure cancer, and they'd be pissed. We have all these clinics that will close now. What about the cancer clinics? Oncologists that are out of work, thanks to the fascist Donald Trump. What about the radiologists and the chemotherapists? They're all out of work. Yeah, we just cured cancer. They would. I think they'd be pissed about it.
Yeah.
I mean, look how pissed they are over what's happening with discovering government waste and fraud and spending of hundreds of billions of dollars that they've uncovered already. Hundreds of billions. And they're pissed.
Yeah.
All they can do is scream about Elon Musk. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't even think it's I don't think the Democrat base looks at Ukraine and says, we got to keep the grift going for Zelensky and for the Democrat Party.
I don't think so.
I think you're right. I think it's just this hatred of all things Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And there's another timeline out there somewhere where Donald Trump is continuing the policy of Joe Biden on Ukraine, and the left is still pissed.
Yeah, they would be.
Because they did the same. They flipped on the vaccine. They hated the vaccine. And then January 20th comes along.
And then they were in love with it. Yep.
It's
exactly right.
Pathetic. Their principle is just oppose all things Donald Trump.
Yeah.